Catherine Rothschild entered the University of Wisconsin in 1967 after having graduated with honors from Senn High School in Chicago, Illinois. Her parents and sisters lived in a modest home on the Chicago's north side, where her father worked as a president of a local brokerage firm. Christine enjoyed her classes and had high hopes of becoming a journalist upon graduation. She was an attractive young woman with long blondish brown hair and often spent her summers modeling for department store catalogs. Oh man, I see where this is going. I know I'm under unsolved mysteries or stories, but jeez, golly. During the spring of 1968, the weather was miserably cold and wet, but Catherine kept upbeat by looking forward to a long-awaited visit with her family in Chicago. Unfortunately, fate intervened, and an 18-year-old Christine became the first victim of the capital city serial killer. On a dreary May evening in 1968, a male student discovered her body hidden behind some shrubbery outside of Sterling Hall, a mathematics building located on North Carter Street. After going over the crime scene, investigators theorized that Christine had been killed early that morning while out jogging. The coroner ruled that she had died as a result of at least 12 stab wounds to the chest. Good God. As the summer wore on, investigators looked into several suspects, but none proved to be the killer. At one point, they offered a $5,000 reward for the information relating to the murder, but that also proved to be futile. With no new suspects, a murder weapon, or any leads to follow, the case was placed into a cold case folder. A year later, after the bombing of the UW administration building, what is going on? On August 24th, 1970, Sterling Hall, the building next to the spot where Christine Rothschild's body was found, was bombed, and a 33-year-old researcher died as the result of the blast. Soon, investigators had 4 suspects in the crime, and federal warrants were issued at Madison charging 4 men, with sabotage, destruction of government property, and conspiracy. 3 of the 4 were later arrested and convicted of the bombing. As the years went by, most people forgot Christine Rothschild murder, and those few who hadn't simply chalked it up as an anomaly, a freak incident unlikely to occur again. And so it would be until July 21st, 1976, where the charred and decomposed remains of 20-year-old Deborah Bennett were discovered by land assessors in a gully along Old Sauk Pass Road, approximately 14 miles from Madison in western Dane County. Wait, did they say charred like burned? Oh my goodness. An autopsy conducted by Dr. Billy Bauman revealed that Deborah had been dead for at least 10 days, but the exact cause of death was unknown. A fractured collarbone and dental records had enabled her identification. Soon after her discovery, the investigators learned from friends that she had recently been evicted from her apartment and had been staying in a room at the Cardinal Hotel in downtown Madison, a native of Ridgeway in Iowa County. Deborah had only lived in the area a short time. Investigators had no suspects and very little evidence to go on. In a mysterious twist, 3 weeks after her body was found, the key to her room was mailed to the hotel. There was no note, return address, or any identifying marks. Investigators have yet to release the postmark information or the results of the examination they conducted for latent prints. As with Christine Rothschild's murder, the case was eventually filed away in a folder pending future leads. 2 years would pass until another brutal discovery rocked the area. It was once again a summer day on which another young woman was found in a shallow grave along Woodland Road in Waunakee, just 14 miles outside of the city of Madison. Okay, so I'm going to pause there because as a woman, I'd have been gone. I was like, it's too many things that's going on. It would be too many stories I would have had to know about. I would have just left. The victim had been dead for at least 3 days and had apparently died as a result of blunt force trauma to the head. It took investigators nearly 2 days to identify the body as that of 18-year-old Julie Ann Hall. According to Hall's friends, just weeks earlier, on May 1st, 1978, Julie had secured a job as a library assistant on the university campus. She was last seen on a Friday night when she went out to a local pub, Main King Tap, a short distance from Madison's Capitol Square. Again, there are no suspects and no evidence pointing toward the killer. Julie Spearschneider mysteriously vanished, according to witnesses. Another girl. Okay, I missed this first part. Jeez, man. Okay, so March 27th was Julie, and now we have another one. Let's see, Julie. On March 27th, 1979, 20-year-old Julie Spearschneider mysteriously vanished. According to witnesses, she had spent most of the evening at 602 Club, a bar at 602 University Avenue, when she decided to hitchhike to a friend's house. My God, I think as a woman, you cannot do that, especially nowadays. Well, I guess it's back in the day, but still, I would never do. Well, I guess you have Uber now, but I think they're supposed to be verified. I can't remember. Shortly after her disappearance, a man told police that he had picked up Julie, who he had recognized from the media reports, along with a male companion, and dropped them off at the corner of Johnson and Brearley. The witness gave a description of the man to investigators, but they were unable to identify him. Julie had many friends and at the time of her disappearance worked at the Red Caboose Daycare Center, where coworkers described her as a reliable, friendly employee. Friends and relatives offered a reward for information and at one point consulted a psychic in hopes of locating her. In April of 1980, Julie Spearschneider was still missing when the body of 24-year-old Susan LeMahieu was found lying in the weeds near Madison Arboretum. Arboretum? I'm not saying it right because it's saying like I'm saying abortion, but I'm saying arboretum, I believe. A 1974 graduate of Madison's East High School. Susan was mildly autistic and physically handicapped. Yeah, I couldn't use the word they was about to get me to say. Good Lord. Get me capped before I even make it. While she had been reported missing on December 15th, police did not initially suspect foul play and had considered the possibility that she had run off or was wandering around confused as a result of her disabilities. Okay, I guess that does make sense. But an autopsy determined that she had died as a result of multiple stab wounds to the chest. Why are we allowing people here? 1 year after the discovery of Susan LeMahieu, on April 1981, Charles Beard, 16, was hiking along the Yaharo River when he came across the skeletal remains of Julie Spearschneider. Because of the decomposed state in which she was found, the investigators were unable to determine the exact cause of death. 3 months later, July 1981, we got this. Did I click serial killers? Jeez. 1981, the body of 17-year-old Shirley Stewart was found in a wooded area of Madison. The youngest of all the victims. Oh yeah, 17, jeez. Well, still all of them. Good Lord, they're still all young. She had been missing since January 2nd, 1980, so January to July, okay. After leaving her job at the Dean Clinic, Shirley's body was very decomposed, and the deputy coroner, Donald Scullion, was unable to establish the exact cause of death. They're not finding nobody's cause of death. First off, they're not finding the person who's doing all this. It was nearly a year before another young woman was mysteriously killed in the Madison area. I'm gonna stop there. I understand. I understand why fathers don't want their daughters going anywhere now, especially if this type of stuff is going to happen. On July 2nd, 1982, 19-year-old Donna Mraz was stabbed repeatedly behind Camp Randall Stadium. Mraz was on her way home from State Street, where she earned tuition money as a waitress. The killer left behind her money, paycheck, and keys, and there was no indication of sexual assault. So this dude was just sick. Lieutenant Gary Moore of UW Police told Wix TV she never regained consciousness. For all intents and purposes, the young lady was dead when she hit the ground. With no witnesses or motive, investigators were again stumped. Like, how's this dude just doing this? The final murder in this really, we're calling it a series now, took place on November 17th, 1984. Deer hunters in the town of Buena Vista found the body of a partially clad young woman in a wooded area southeast of Highway 54. The body was eventually identified as that of 20-year-old Janet M. Rosh, a University of Wisconsin student, a business major in her third year at UW. Rosh had worked at Debo Center on campus. Friends had reported her missing on October 15th, but she was last seen on October 11th in 1984, when a friend dropped her off on Highway 54 in the town of Buena Vista, about 2 miles west of where her body was found. What do you mean, dropped her off on the highway? I keep forgetting these are different times, but still, it just seems so dumb now. Decomposition made it difficult to determine the exact cause of death, and the coroner was unable to pinpoint the time of death, saying she could have died a week to 10 days before the body was found. It sucks for all these women. In December 1999, Captain James Lamar of the Sheriff's Department of Operations Division in Portage County, Wisconsin, discussed that the murder of Janet Rosh with the Portage County Gazette. There was not much investigators could do now without new information, Lamar said. An investigator had been assigned to the case, which is literally a box of paperwork, is considered an open case here. We do periodically review it. We truly feel we have exhausted everything available at the time, but again, it's subject to review. Detective Harlan Hetrick of the UW Police Department gave an interview to WISC-TV on May 10, 2002, regarding the murder of Donna Mraz, in which he stated that she was a decent person, honorable person, not a person with a problem, just enjoying going to school and doing a good job. During that same segment, former UW Police Lieutenant Gary Moore said, "It isn't just a job, it becomes an obsession. In ways, everybody who worked the case felt the same way. This case really haunts you. It haunts you. It really shook me to the core. That's for sure." Deputy Coroner David Scullion gave an interview to the Portage County Gazette in which he said, "I personally feel there are several similarities. The patterns are wooded areas, off the roadways, and concealed areas." Yeah. I still don't understand the one that got dropped off on the highway. It is also interesting to note that each victim was young, wore her hair long and parted in the same manner eerily reminiscent of Ted Bundy's victims, and all the victims were found within a short distance of Madison, Wisconsin. In addition, they are all somehow associated with the University of Wisconsin, either through classes, employment, or living at a campus residence. So this dude just killed people in Wisconsin? Why? At one point in 1984, serial killer Henry Lee Lucas confessed to several of the killings, but later recanted those confessions. Many of the original investigators still feel Lucas was responsible for some of the murders, but given his track record for false confessions and the fact that Lucas was in prison at many of the times that many of the murders were committed, it is very doubtful that Lucas was involved. Yeah, he just wanted credit. Yeah, because man, you really do have some sick individuals in this world. Let's say, especially you want to take credit. You want to take credit for murders because you want to be seen as that type of person. But why? At the end of the day, when a series of murders stops, police and citizens alike are very relieved. It is not always clear that the murders have really stopped, and the killer is not just in some cooling off periods, or is perhaps disposing of victims in a way that their remains will not be found. What is probably called for is an additional two-pronged investigation to determine from missing persons reports whether the killer may still be alive, man, how do I read words that aren't there? May still be active in covering up the evidence of his crimes, and if he is not determined to be active, what may account for the murders ending in November 1984? A review of local suspects and violent offenders incarcerated in the mid 1980s could shed some light on the reasons the murder stopped when they did. Yeah, man, I I I wouldn't get it. I'll say what makes us stop. What makes you start? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you the mind of a killer. I guess, man. I guess maybe you do this enough, you learn. But yeah, that's it. And that was Capital City Murders by David Lohr. But yeah, whew. Yeah, I couldn't imagine being in that. Just live. Well, I guess I lived in the '90s, but I would never been dropped off on the side of the highway. I know that much. But man, this sucks. Again, it's just terrible. Well, I guess what goes through a mind of a killer, what makes them, I guess they mentioned something about Ted Bundy. I gotta really read more into that. I know they did the TV series on Netflix and whatnot, but I gotta just read into it. I don't think I'm gonna watch it. I just need to read and understand what's going on from his perspective. But yeah, I can't understand what goes in goes into these people's heads to be like, oh, this girl looks one way. Oh, cool. Let me decapitate her, stab her, get her. Like, what do you like? What are these people thinking at the end of the day? But I don't know. And then to be as sick as to say, yeah, no, I did that. Nah, not really though. It was actually somebody else, but I just want to take credit for it. Like, why? At the end of the day. But that is my topics for today.